Hi everyone, this is Kalyan Kumar and welcome to Product Review. In this channel, I review a variety of products including devices, software and several web-based services. I also showcase how to do videos, tips and strategies and explain in depth several tech-related concepts. Today's video is about bursting a certain myth. The myth of DPI versus PPI, that is dots per inch and pixels per inch. There seems to be a great deal of confusion among many people regarding the use of certain terms in digital imaging, and one of the more common sources of confusion is between DPI and PPI. And the best part is there is actually no relationship between the two. It's like saying that there are two people. One person is judging the quality of an apple by its taste, and there is another person who is judging the quality of an apple by the amount of vitamins it has. Now, it's possible that an apple may taste sweeter than the other, but may contain less vitamins. And it is also possible that there may be an apple, perfect apple, which perhaps tastes very well and also contains a lot of vitamins. So basically, DPI and PPI are completely different concepts. Now, ideally speaking, for a display, for an image in a display, it doesn't really matter as to what is its PPI. The reason PPI matters is for printing. And DPI tells you how well the printing will happen depending upon the settings of a particular printer. Now, let's start with PPI, which is actually easier to understand. This is the number of pixels per inch in your image. This will affect the print size of your photo and will affect the quality of the printed image. The way that it will affect the quality of the output is that if there are too few pixels per inch, then to make up for that length, the pixels will be very large and you will get a very pixelated image. For example, let us say you're printing an image of 2 inches in width. And let's say there are 200 pixels per inch. So in a 2-inch width, there will be 400 pixels in total. So the width will have 400 pixels. Now suppose the same 2-inch size image were to be printed for an image which has only 100 ppi, which means in the entire 2 inch there will be only 200 pixels. And lesser the number of pixels per inch, more would be the pixelation, or you can call it disfigurement of an image during printing only. This all refers to printing. Now what happens is that if there are too few pixels, then the clarity of an image goes down in printing, not on display. Now you will hear various numbers thrown around as to what an acceptable PPI for a printout is. A lot of this will depend on the size of the print. This is because you look at a large print from a further distance and a small print from a smaller distance. So you can get away even with a lower PPI because it will be smaller in dimension. Now generally for magazine printing, images that are generally printed are between 200 to 266 PPI. In a software like Photoshop, the way to change the print size of an image is by switching off resampling, which I am going to show you just shortly. So in PPI, especially in a software like Photoshop, there is an option called resampling. Now what happens is, you can increase the PPI of an image by keeping the resampling off, as well as by keeping the resampling on. Now what will happen is, if you keep the resampling off, and I'll show you doing that just in a short while. So if I keep the resampling off of an image and then I increase its PPI, pixels per inch, what will happen is the image size will change. But the number of pixels remain the same and the file size also remains the same. This means that let us say I have an image of 100 inches, or let's say 10 inches. Let's make it 10 inches in width. And let us say there are 100 pixels. So 10 inch, and there are 100 pixels in that 10 inch. So which means per inch there are 10 pixels. So PPI is 10. Now let me make the PPI 20. The moment I make the PPI 20, the 10 inch image will become 5 inch. But the number of pixels will remain the same. Because the number of pixels, remember, were 100. So what will happen is, if you increase the density of pixels, to keep this value of 100 same, it will decrease the size. So with 10 PPI, a 10 inch image had 100 pixels. By making the PPI 20, you will decrease the image size by half, because you are doubling the PPI, because the number of pixels will remain the same. So what happens basically is that if you keep the resampling off, by increasing the PPI, you will decrease the image size. And when I say image size, I'm talking about not the file size, I'm talking about the dimension of the image in inches. But you will not be changing the number of pixels, because it is to keep the number of pixels constant that the image is decreasing. And since the number of pixels remain the same, 100, irrespective of the number of inches that this image is displayed in, so what will happen is that the file size remains the same. Now, the question arises as to why would somebody want to do this? Well, look at the other way around. Suppose I decrease the pixel size. Instead of 20 going from 10, I make it 5. The size increases. So it is all dependent on the print. Suppose I want to print it at a, let's say 10 inch image. I can print it in 10 inch, but suppose I want to print it in 5 inch only. What would I do? I'll do resampling off. I'll make the PPI 20. The moment I make the PPI 20, the size of the image becomes 5 inches. And now I can print the same image in 5 inches. Suppose I want to print it in 20 inches. So I'll have to decrease the PPI. I'll make it 5 PPI. So 5 PPI will make the dimension 20 inches, and I get the printout in 20 inches now. So basically, resampling off is primarily done to have different size of prints. Now let's see the other one, resampling on. When you keep the resampling on, the image size will remain same. That's the best part. The image size remains same, but the number of pixels change and the file size also changes. So now let's take this example. 10 inch, 100 pixels. 10 is the PPI. Now I keep the resampling on. And now I make it as 20 PPI. So the moment you make it 20 PPI, the 10 inch will remain 10 inch. Because you have kept the resampling on. So resampling on means 10 inch will remain as 10 inch, but the PPI has become 20. So what will be the number of pixels? Will become 200. So new pixels have to be added by the computer and the software. Now suppose I were to decrease it, make it from 10 PPI to 5 PPI. Now the moment I make 5 PPI, inches remain 10, the total number of pixels go down and they become 50. And since the number of pixels are changing, the file size will change accordingly by the same proportion. So you double the pixels, image size will become double. You reduce the number of pixels by half, the image size becomes half. So basically, resampling on and off have different purposes. Now again the question is, why would somebody do resampling on? Resampling off, we understood it is for printing purposes. So what is the purpose of doing resampling on? The purpose of resampling on is that suppose I have an image which is, let's say, 3 megabytes in space. Now I want to upload it into some particular website. But the website said the limit is only 2 megabytes. Now what do? I have to decrease the file size. But if I do resampling off, remember resampling off doesn't change the number of pixels. It changes only the dimension. The file size remains the same there. So what I'll do is I'll do resampling on and I have to decrease the size, so I'll decrease the PPI. So from 10 PPI, let's say I make it 5 PPI, I make it half or I make it 6 PPI or whatever. I decrease the PPI, file size automatically decreases because the number of pixels will decrease. So let's look at Photoshop, and this is an image which I've taken from the web. This is the image of the Earth taken from the International Space Station. And this is a square image. The width and the height are same. Now let's look at the image dimensions, image size. Now first of all, let me keep the resampling off and let this be in inches. It will be easier for us to understand, and let me keep this as 10. Now this image has a file size of 2.86 megabytes. Its width is 1000. Its height is 1000 pixels. This is in pixels. In inches it is 100 and 100 because the resolution is 10 pixels per inch. Now remember, my resampling image is off. So what would happen if I increase this? Let's make it 20. The moment I do that, the width and the height inches will reduce, but look at the number of pixels, there's still 1000. Look at the file size, it is still 2.86. Because with resampling off, pixels remain the same. So if you increase the PPI, the length and the width and the height will decrease. So let's go back to 10 and let's keep the resampling on. Remember, the file size was same in resampling off. Resampling on. I click this. Now let me make this 20. The moment I make this 20, you will notice these two remain the same. This will double. Oh sorry, let's make it 20. Can you see this still remains 100? This becomes 2000. And this in fact has not just doubled, it has become much more, 11.4. But don't go by this value because the value will change. Because when you convert this into a JPEG image, what will happen is it will have some kind of a compression. So finally the file size would come around 5 to 6 megabytes. So it's not exactly proportionately increasing, but it will definitely increase. So, and what will happen if I make it 5? Well, the pixels have become half, but remember the size remains same, 100 inches. So this is how the things are happening in terms of resampling on and resampling off. The most amazing thing, however, is the fact that changing the PPI does not affect how an image is displayed on screen. Its sharpness level would be the same. The display resolution of the monitor is the one that governs everything. Now, let me make this very clear to you so that you can clearly understand what I mean by this. Now, how an image is displayed on screen is only a function of the screen resolution. Let's say, for example, I have a computer monitor and it displays 100 pixels per inch. So in 1 inch of my computer screen, let's say there are 100 pixels. Whether I take a 200 ppi image or a 50 ppi image or a 1000 ppi image, in 1 inch I'm only going to see 100 pixels because my computer screen itself has 100 pixels. And each pixel of the image will match with 1 pixel of the screen. So what will change? Only the size of the image will change. The quality of the image will not change. A 50 ppi image will look as sharp as a 1000 ppi image. Why? Because the amount displayed is only 100 ppi. In 1 inch my screen has only 100. So the 50 ppi would occupy half an inch, because in 1 inch I've got 100 pixels. So 50 pixels would be in half an inch and 1000 would be 10 times that. So the idea here is that the PPI of an image has no bearing on how it is displayed on screen. A 1 PPI image and a 1000 PPI image will look equally sharp. The only thing is the dimensions will be different. The amount of size they occupy on the screen will be different. The sharpness level will be the same. So in case you're taking your picture from 2 different cameras or with the same camera with 2 different settings, and in one setting it is giving you let's say 500 PPI, in another it is giving you 5000 PPI, on a computer screen it does not matter at all. PPI matters only for printing. The PPI is mainly meant for printing, not for display. For display, it is the computer's display which actually matters. That is why, now just imagine this. Suppose my computer's resolution is 100 pixels per inch. So, suppose I have an image which is 200 PPI. That means it needs 200 pixels. So, if I only have 100 pixels per inch, I cannot display 200 pixels in that 1 inch, even though the image is 200 PPI. So, what will happen is the image will scale up to 2 inches, so that there are 200 pixels displayed. Now, suppose I suddenly increase my monitor's resolution to 200. So, now my monitor is able to give me 200 pixels per inch. So, this 200 PPI image will suddenly become smaller, 1 inch. That is why you will notice that when you increase the computer screen's resolution, all the icons in your desktop and other texts become smaller in size. And as you decrease the PPI, the resolution, they all become bigger and bigger and bigger. And you must have noticed that when you connect your computer to a projector, generally it automatically scales down the resolution, because the projector is not able to process that much of resolution through a normal VGA kind of a cable. So what will happen is automatically your computer screen's icons, each icon will blow up. That's because the resolution has automatically decreased. Now let's look at what is DPI. Now DPI, it's dots per inch. Now this is very, very important for you to understand. DPI again is only meant for printing. It's not meant for printing, it's actually meant for a printer. PPI will tell you the size in which the printing is done. So if you have a 100 PPI image, you have to also select the dimension in which you want to print it. If you want to print it in 10 inch, 100 PPI image will ensure that there are 10 pixels per inch. So PPI will tell you what is the dimension of the image and how many pixels are there in that particular image per inch on printing. Now DPI is the one which will print that image. So the computer gives instruction to the printer saying this is the number of pixels you have to print, and the printer, irrespective of the DPI, will have to print that many pixels per inch. So if it's 100 PPI, the printer will print 100 PPI. 200 PPI, it will print 200 PPI. Does not matter on the DPI of the printer. What the DPI does is how those pixels appear to you. DPI is dots per inch. So what happens is the toner or the cartridge of your printer, it puts small dots on each pixel. So each pixel is made up of several dots. And if it's a color printer, then all the more difficult, because then it has to have various colors, and generally there are 4 to 6 different colors in a color printer, and they have to combine with each another to give you all types of color gamut that is present in your image. So what happens is that PPI is the instruction given by the computer, number of pixels. Now how these pixels appear in the printout will be determined by DPI, and there will be several dots in each pixel. Say for example, my printer has a maximum DPI of 1200, which means per inch, DPI is dots per inch. So per inch there will be 1200 dots of ink. Let's say I print an image of 100 PPI. So 100 PPI means per inch I've got 100 pixels. And 1200 dpi means per inch I have 1200 dots. So in 1 inch I have 100 pixels and 1200 dots, which means each pixel has 12 dots. I know it's a bit of a math here. So 1 inch has 100 pixels and 1 inch also has 1200 dots. So every pixel has 12 dots. So 12 dots will make up that particular pixel. But suppose my printer had the capacity to go for 2400 dpi printing, which it doesn't. But then what would have happened is each pixel would have had 24 dots. Now what is the advantage of more dots per inch? More dots per pixel? The advantage is that the color gamut, if it is a color printout, it will be more natural, it will be more enhanced, and the color would not appear to be an artificial color. The more is the dots, easier would be the color spread and more color reproduction is possible. So this is very, very important. At the same time, if I were to take the same 100 dpi image with 600 dpi printer, or if I keep the printer setting as 600 dpi, then obviously I'm going to have 6 dots per pixel. So if it is a black and white image, the blackness of an image would become a little gray. So what will happen is the contrast will go off. The difference between the colors would go off. The difference between the shades would go off, lesser the DPI. But remember, in general, even a printout of 300 DPI is very good visually speaking. So now comes the question, how relevant is DPI? PPI is very, very relevant. It tells you the image size on printing. So how does DPI matter? Well, actually, DPI used to matter. But with the advent of inkjet printers and laser printers, things have changed. Because what happens is, now the DPI is almost irrelevant. Because the way an inkjet printer behaves and the way a laser jet printer behaves are totally different. An inkjet printer prints dots of the same size and they are circular in nature. Circular dots and all dots of the same size. Now a higher DPI for an inkjet printer means more dots per pixel. So 600 DPI, 6 dots per pixel if it is 100 PPI image, and a 200 DPI printer would print 12 dots per pixel. And so if it is, let's say, the part of the hair, you'll have more dots there, and for lighter parts it will have less dots there. Depending on the instructions the image is given to the printer, it will print different amount of dots. But the maximum dots it can print would be 12 dots per pixel, assuming it is 1200 dpi. But what a laser printer does is totally different. A laser printer has different size of dots, different shapes of dots. So what an inkjet does is, to print a darker area, it will print more dots there. To print a lighter area, it will print less dots there. Whereas, the same image printed by a laser printer would be such that the darker areas would be having dots of bigger size and the lighter areas will have dots of smaller size. So how do the images differ from both? I mean, what would be the image difference would be in a printout? The difference would be that if I have 12 dots, just imagine I have 12 dots per pixel, and in the laser printer I have one big giant dot in that same pixel. Now since it is one big dot, there is no space between that particular dark area because it is one dot, whereas here there are 12 dots. So 12 dots give you a certain shade. Here one single dot of a giant size gives you the same shade. Obviously the laser printout would be sharper. The laser printout will be more clearer. Whereas here there will be space between dots. If there are 12 dots giving you a dark area, there are spaces, white spaces in between the dots. Whereas here is one giant dot sitting there, totally black. So this is how laser printers and inkjet printers would differ, and therefore DPI in that sense would not make much of a difference, because in terms of a laser printer, technically speaking, it has got only one dot in that particular pixel, where here there are 12, but this is sharper. So DPI has actually lost its meanings with the advent of laser printers. So that is why these days the printers will ask you which is the quality of printing you want, good, better, best. They will not tell you DPI, because there the DPI is almost irrelevant. So that is the distinction between a PPI and DPI. I hope this video makes sense to you and gives you some understanding of the difference between DPI and PPI. They're definitely different, and let me warn you, there are websites which will write DPI when they had to write PPI. If you just go and type how to convert PowerPoint slides into high resolution images, you'll get a website which will tell you how to do that. And every time they will write DPI, they will actually mean PPI. And by mistake, they confuse the two. They are totally different. And moreover, there are websites, to add to this confusion, there are websites which even go to the extent of converting DPI to PPI. They'll say, okay, one DPI is so many PPI. All of that is total crap. It is a big BS. Do not ever believe these websites, because they're totally incorrect and wrong in what they're telling you. So I hope this video makes some sense to you and helps you understand the difference between PPI and DPI. If you have any questions, any suggestions, any comments, any queries, any doubts, please drop them in the comment section below. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please consider subscribing. I urge you to do that, because I'm going to make lots and lots of videos of gadgets, of software, of web-based services, and how-to tutorials like this one, and the distinction between various technical terms. So I'm going to make lots and lots of different types of videos in this channel. So please do consider subscribing to this channel. If you like this video, please do hit the thumbs up button. This is Kalyan Kumar signing off. Have a great day. Goodbye. Thank you for watching.